Hello and welcome to the special edition COVID-19 Rogers TV program. I am Carol Merton, and before I welcome our first guest on the program, I want to share a few thoughts with you. On Thursday, January 14th, 2021, as part of the declaration of the second provincial emergency, a stay-at-home order was issued. This order and other new and existing public health restrictions are aimed at limiting people's mobility and reducing the number of daily contacts with those outside an immediate household. We are all now on the front line. We are all working together to stop this virus. We want to stop it from spreading. The virus will seek every opportunity it can to spread by finding loopholes. Let's not give it that chance. If you wonder if what you are planning to do meets the limits outlined by the government, check first. Call the experts at the health unit. When in doubt, check it out before you proceed. This is hard work for all of us. It is hard to be isolated and have our daily routines disrupted. We are all weary. Essential workers in healthcare, long-term care, and retirement residences, public health, first responders, pharmacies, our local businesses, our education systems, so many others need our support now more than ever as we move through this time together. Never underestimate the value and importance of what we are doing by following the public health unit guidelines. The sacrifices that we make each and every day are helping to prevent the spread of COVID-19. We are saving lives. Thank you for what you're doing. And on that note, I also want to thank our guest who's here today. Thank you, Keith. Keith Lefebvre is from the Bluewater District School Board, and you're a superintendent there, right, Keith?
Yes, Carol, thank you.
So thanks for being on the program, and you're here to talk to us about remote learning, the school system, how you're managing with all of these changes through COVID-19. So welcome and take it away, Keith. The program's yours.
Thanks.
I'll just have tea while you're talking here.
Sure. You can feel free to interject with some questions.
Sure.
I don't know if the listeners just want to hear me ramble on. However, happy to talk to you a little bit about everything that we've been doing in Bluewater District School Board to protect and ensure the safety of our staff and students and the families in our communities. We've, I think, done a tremendous job as a district in terms of putting together return to school protocols that help to ensure that safety for our staff and students. And those protocols, as you alluded to before, we've worked so closely with public health, with Dr. Era and his team, and we're in close contact, I would say almost, I'm going to say almost daily. Our pandemic lead, my colleague Cheryl Elliott, helps to ensure that we have close contact with public health and that we are constantly updating those our return to school protocols, and those are available for all of our staff to make sure that in all of our situations we're doing whatever we can and we're taking the best advice from the experts in the field. So again, that is something that we worked on quite a bit through the summer, and it is constantly revised, I would say almost on a daily basis.
So as we're actually having our program today, this is the first week that school is back again. So having you on the program is so timely. I'm delighted that you're here because obviously you've been doing a different approach.
Yes.
Until we're given the okay to have school. So what's different this time for the education, the school board, compared to the first lockdown? Anything different?
Well, just as you talked about previously, we are one of a handful of boards in the southern part of the province that has been allowed to reopen for in-person learning. We're really excited about that. I know in a number of the schools that I've talked to, the principals that I've been chatting with, the students are so happy to be back at school. They're saying that they see a lot of smiles, even though they're masked smiles. They know the kids are smiling, and they're happy to be back in-person learning. It's certainly something that I think something that they really appreciate. And in terms of differences between the first lockdown, for the first lockdown, back in the spring, so on March 13th, when that was announced that we would be out following March break, that was a big step for us, and that was and as you know, that extended well past the March break and right through till the end of June. And for us, for educators, it looked very different because the assessment and evaluation that was taking place continued. However, it was made clear through the ministry that marks could not be changed or would not be changed from that point forward. So there were a lot of students who were engaged to start the lockdown and that were participating, but that quickly dwindled. And there were students, especially as I think the weather started to improve, that maybe weren't as engaged in what was taking place. So it became very difficult for us to be able to work with students in that environment where there was not the mandate that the students are participating full time during that time. So definitely this particular shutdown that we had most recently, we're continuing to assess those students, and we're continuing to operate in a normal fashion. We were implementing full synchronous learning for our students. So there was 240 minutes a day of synchronous learning for our students from grades 1 through to 12. And when you think about that, what that actually looks like, you've got about 4 hours during the day where the students are participating in or have the opportunity to participate in synchronous learning opportunities. Those are opportunities where students maybe are working one-on-one with a teacher or in small groups, or they could be working in large group settings. So that was taking place. And I know that some educators were able to do some synchronous learning in the spring, but that's certainly very different than what was taking place now this time around. I would say that we've, again, in terms of this shutdown and then the return back to school, we've got, again, excellent protocols in place so that our in-person learning was able to continue. That's something that I just, I can't emphasize enough, the work that's been done there.
So in addition to the students, the teachers, I also want to mention how absolutely wonderful it was to even take my dog for a walk and see the crossing guards, to see the school buses traveling. And I know those protocols are in place for those services as well. We often think of what happens in a classroom, but there's coordination and public health restrictions to get our kids safely to school as well. And, it really was a different environment not seeing those activities going. So what do you hear from the teachers who've had to do the synchronous teaching? Are they having a challenge keeping the attention of the children? Are they having a challenge when somebody just decides they've had enough and they're leaving the room? That's it, they're gone. I mean, I can't imagine, children are children, and in the classroom, it's a little bit easier to control. What are you hearing, and what sorts of strategies are they coming up with?
So now that we're back in person, unless we're going back, although I guess I can speak a little bit to our remote school as well, because we do have approximately 1,600 students who are learning remotely within the district. So that's approximately 10% of our population who are engaged in the elementary and secondary remote school. So this is a sizable population. Certainly, that engagement piece is a difficult one. It is not. It is not an easy task for educators to be able to keep those students engaged for that entire length of time. Sorry, are we? Your image was just a little fuzzy. Am I still online? Can you hear me?
You're fine, and with the joys of technology, even if I freeze, just continue on.
Okay, great. Everything looks okay. Oh, I'm getting a signal from your
producer.
Your technician saying everything's
it's the blue
good.
Screen, that secret blue screen that gives us our messages. Now it's out on Rogers TV. We have a secret screen.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. So in terms of that engagement piece, it is difficult. But we have excellent educators within Bluewater, and they do a ton of professional development in terms of working with one another and coming up with different ways to engage the students, keep them engaged in what's happening and taking place. We also have a program department that has offered a number of open office hours and professional development. They did this during the spring, as well as they offered a number of these sessions in the fall to help educators learn best practices in terms of engaging students online. And I know that formerly I was the remote school principal, and I know that a number of teachers were actually engaging in opportunities to work together. They were creating small pods of professional development. Sorry, I've got my cat who is now
let the cat join the screen.
Insisting on being a part of the Rogers, there we go. His name is Toby, and Toby loves to be a part of any Skype call or anything that I participate in.
We are a very adaptable television program, so thank you.
I appreciate that. And hopefully my dog doesn't start barking, because sometimes she likes to join in the conversation too.
So it sounds, that the teachers certainly have access for learning techniques. Were all teachers comfortable with this kind of teaching? I mean, it's different than other things. How did that work? Did some people choose to ask to do the remote learning and continue with the virtual school per se? What happened there?
So not certainly in March break last year, I was in the role that I was in at that point was I was the technology-enabled lead learner for the board, and I was helping to transition us into working online. So when this happened, I certainly had a unique role in that I was supporting a lot of teachers, and I had a number of teachers who jumped right on board and were quite comfortable with the remote learning. Mm-hmm. There were a number of teachers who were not, though. It was a huge change for them. But I have to say, we had an incredible response from a lot of people, including a lot of people who were quite brave in saying that they were a little scared about this first step in terms of moving towards online learning, and but they were willing to make that leap for their students. And we were able to offer a lot of professional development in the spring. We offered a number of sessions for teachers to be able to learn with and from one another. We had a number of new applications that we purchased for the board for them to be able to use with their students, and we supported those as much as possible in terms of offering supports like our program department or myself running office hours and opportunities for for teachers to ask questions. And that was very successful. What we've done is we've archived all of that information and put it into a course, a professional development course that's available for teachers to reference at any time. So I know that there have been a number of teachers who have looked at those videos, gone back, reviewed things, made sure that they were up to date with respect to the work that they're doing on, we have two major platforms, Carol, that we use. We use Brightspace, which is a product by Desire to Learn, or D2L. And that Brightspace is a learning platform that is used around the world by a number of different organizations and educational institutions. It was a contract was made with the Ministry of Education a while back, I'm not sure exactly when, for us to use that as a primary learning environment. And so that's offered to all of the school boards free of charge from the ministry. So we use that as a resource. As well, we have, we're a Microsoft Office 365 environment. So we use Office 365, and in many cases we use Teams as our platform for virtual learning or online conversations, something like Skype, very similar. But it's very, very secure, obviously, and that's the most important piece when it comes to learning online, again, is that security piece for our students.
For sure.
So, I think teachers were I think they appreciated the opportunity to come into the online environment. When we started our remote school, we had a number of teachers who actually did volunteer to be part of the remote learning. So we were happy to welcome them.
So teachers became students to learn how to do virtual.
I would say we are all lifelong learners, and absolutely in Bluewater, that's something that we embrace, our lifelong learner attitude, and we certainly have embraced that in the last 10 months.
So just a couple of questions. You mentioned about 10% of the students are still learning virtually or remote learning. Is that by choice, or so that the parents have decided? Okay.
Yes.
So if we have a crystal ball into the future after COVID-19 is gone, hopefully we've had the vaccinations, do you foresee the landscape of the school system being a mixed model where there's a combination of a virtual school that's ongoing versus an in-classroom school? Do you ever foresee a mixed model? I'm hearing from the business sector, that they're going to be changing their business model because they've learned the values to a certain extent. Do you ever anticipate there may be a conversation about a mixed model in the future as a choice?
I think it certainly will be a discussion in the future. I certainly think that it's something that's being investigated right now. Yeah. My only apprehension about that moving forward is that it is a while it's a very good model for some students, it's not necessarily the best model for all students. Right. It is not easy to learn and to teach in an online environment. And I think certainly with respect to some of the learners, I think it takes a very special learner, someone who is very dedicated to the work that needs to happen. You need to have a lot of resilience because as you know, technology doesn't work always the first time around. And so you have to be very resilient. You have to be a self-starter, so to speak, and you have to have that motivation and that internal drive, because it's very easy to simply turn the computer off or walk away, or maybe flip over to a game and start gaming instead of doing your work. So there are certain aspects that I think really, that's why I think for mature learners, for those I know I have two daughters in university right now, and they're both doing online learning. It works well. It's working well for them. But again, they're very motivated, and they know they need to get the work done, or Dad's going to be pretty angry.
Aha, the truth comes out. And as far as the social needs of children as well, I mean, that's part of education, part of learning. We're hearing more and more, and certainly studies are coming forward, even recommendations from sick kids about having kids go to school. Mm-hmm. So that's not possible, of course, with the remote learning opportunity. One of the concerns that has also come in Grey Bruce, for sure, there are areas where internet is not available, that the connectivity is not there. What has the school board done to help those parents during the remote learning phase with those challenges?
Sure. We're very excited about the conversations that are happening both federally and provincially around increasing and enhancing the network or connectivity within rural areas. So I know, and that's been something that has been ever since I moved here. That's always been something that's been talked about. I'm looking forward to that moving forward. I know that as a board, what we've done is we've purchased a number of internet sticks or MiFi sticks that we were able to loan out to families, and those were a number of families within the remote school have those. They operate on the cell phone network, so even if you have limited internet, as long as you have even maybe 2 bars, as long as you can get 2 bars within your house for cell phone coverage, then you could use these MiFi sticks to be able to enhance your internet connectivity. So, and those were provided to those families free of charge. And that's certainly one way in which the board has used additional funds that have been provided to us to help support our online learners.
Heaven forbid, but if we have to go back again into remote learning, because you've just gotten back on track again with will you have enough of those sticks available? Was there a waiting list, or have there been people who've waited a little bit longer to get those sticks, or have you had enough, or do you need more?
I know in the last, with this shutdown that took place, we were just told, I believe it was the Saturday just before Christmas when the announcement was made, we had a plan ready in case there was another shutdown. And because this plan was done, principals had already queried families and asked them about whether they required these types of devices, and we had everything all ready to go. So our principals and our administrators were so well prepared in terms of being ready to hand out those devices, that because we also loaned out a number of our devices from our schools to make sure that students had devices to be able to learn online during this shutdown. And they loaned out a number of the MiFi devices as well. And our business department was able to, and ICT were able to secure a number of additional devices based on the increased demand. I believe right now we've had, we're collecting all of those devices again this week now that the shutdown has ended. And I believe that we are holding on to those for a little while just to make sure that we're prepared in case we happen to be shut down again. But we've been able to meet the demand before, so we anticipate being able to meet the demand again.
Often in Grey Bruce, one of our strengths is our ability to partner and network with other agencies and other services. You know, no one agency has all of the pieces, but together, working together, we're able to meet the needs. Has the education system had to link or has linked with other agencies or support services to help deliver education services to our children and to support the parents?
I would say certainly our strongest partnerships during the pandemic have been with public health, has been instrumental in terms of helping us to manage this crisis. I think they've done that for all of us, so I know that we're all very appreciative of their work. Keystone continues to always be a partnership that we value, and they're able to support families within our area quite effectively and efficiently. As well as the Canadian Mental Health Association. And one of the concerns that we have and the experts in the field have is around mental health right now, especially when people are feeling distanced and remote and isolated. So that is always a concern for us. Our students' well-being and mental health is of paramount importance, and that's something that we're always keeping an eye on, as well as the School Mental Health Ontario support team. They work with our mental health leads across all of the boards within Ontario, and they provide a number of supports and resources that we provide to our staff and to our administrators to share with families and share with students. And those are I think the partnerships that we probably value the most, that have really helped us manage in this crisis.
What are you hearing back from the parents? Because I just, they've shouldered a huge responsibility, and also for many parents, they're trying to still remotely do their jobs and help with the learning. What are you hearing back, and what would your advice be to them?
All I want to say to them is thank you very much for your partnership with us, because without you, it would have been, we would not have been able to manage through the pandemic. We realize that our parents are probably some of our strongest partners in the education of their children, and only through working together we've been able to make this happen. I realize that they're balancing a number of things. Fortunately, I live in a family where my children are a little bit older. They're out of the house. They're in university. I don't know how I would have managed with children in the house as I'm trying to work at home. It would have been very difficult. And I know that parents are very appreciative, though, of the work that's been done within the school system. I just got off a call with a principal where the parent council had just dropped off a number of thank yous for all the staff as well. I think everyone's appreciating one another right now, and that's the beauty of it. And you talked about it in your introduction, Carol, quite well, in terms of we just need those connections, and we need to maintain those connections right now to get us through what I think is a really difficult time of the year. We have limited sunlight and long and shorter days. So I think it's just so important that we thank our partners and that we work closely with them. And I know parents have appreciated the work of the educators, and we appreciate it right back.
I want to thank you so much. Our time is up, and it's gone so fast for me. There's so much information. I want to thank you very, very much for being on the program today. Take care, and take care of all of the teachers and students as well. Thank you to our viewing audience for joining us today to learn more about programs and services available to you and to your family. Take care. Stay safe. Thank you.